All right, so buckle up because today we are diving deep into some serious political drama. We're talking about Tulsi Gabbard's confirmation as the Director of National Intelligence.
The DNI
Exactly, the DNI.
oversees all 18 U.S. intelligence agencies.
Huge role, tons of responsibility. And for Gabbard, a former congresswoman and military veteran, disappointment.
It was not a smooth ride.
It was anything BET smooth.
Yeah. What's really interesting is that this confirmation sparked controversy on both sides of the aisle, you see. Gabbard, she doesn't really fit the typical mold of a DNI.
Yeah, you might be thinking, how did someone without direct intelligence experience end up leading the entire intelligence community? Like, how did that happen?
Right.
So let's break down why this appointment raised so many eyebrows. What do you think?
Well, her background is primarily military.
Yeah.
She served in the Army National Guard
For a long time.
for over 2 decades. So while her service is commendable, it's not the traditional path to leading the intelligence community, which usually involves extensive experience within the intelligence agencies themselves.
So right off the bat, her lack of direct intelligence experience had people talking. But then there's also Gabbard's history of, shall we say, unconventional political moves, like that time she met with Syrian President Assad back in 2017.
Yeah.
What do you make of that?
That meeting, along with some of her statements on the Russia-Ukraine war, raised concerns about potential biases and, and her judgment when it comes to foreign policy.
So I've got an unconventional pick with a controversial past. Then comes a confirmation hearing, and things really heat up.
Yeah.
Especially when Edward Snowden's name gets thrown into the mix. Now, for anyone who needs a reminder, Snowden is the former NSA contractor who leaked classified information about U.S. surveillance program.
Back in 2013.
Back in 2013. So this is a big deal.
Huge.
Right.
During her hearing, Gabbard refused to label Snowden a traitor.
Whoa, okay.
This sparked intense debate on both sides of the aisle, and it raised questions about her views on whistleblowing versus national security.
It's a tricky situation, right? Snowden is a polarizing figure. Some see him as a hero who exposed government overreach, while others consider him a traitor who compromised national security.
Exactly, and Gabbard's refusal to condemn him outright left many wondering where she stood on that delicate balance between transparency and security, a balance that is absolutely crucial for a DNI.
Okay, so how did her nomination even survive all this initial pushback? It seemed like she was facing an uphill battle from the start.
Well, this is where things take an interesting turn. Despite the controversy, Gabbard started gaining unexpected support from Republicans.
Okay.
Senators Susan Collins
McClellan.
and Todd Young, who were initially skeptical,
Oh, man.
ended up voting in her favor.
Hold on, back up a second. Is there any evidence to suggest why they changed their minds? Was there some kind of political maneuvering going on behind the scenes?
Well, we can only speculate, but their sudden shift in support certainly raises questions.
Yeah.
It's possible that political deals were struck or that certain concessions were made.
Okay, so she manages to squeak through the committee vote. But then comes the final showdown in the Senate, and that's where things got really dramatic, right?
The final vote was 52-48, largely along party lines. But there was one very notable exception. Mitch McConnell, the Senate Minority Leader, broke rank and voted against Gabbard.
Oh.
He even publicly criticized her, citing alarming lapses in judgment.
Wow, that's a pretty big deal. I mean, McConnell is known for his strategic political maneuvering. So for him to publicly oppose a nominee from his own party, something must have really rubbed him the wrong way.
It definitely suggests that there were serious concerns about Gabbard's suitability for the role, even within Republican ranks.
Yeah.
But despite McConnell's opposition, enough Republicans ultimately fell in line to push her nomination through.
So despite the rocky road, she becomes the DNI. But even during the confirmation process, she did try to address some of the concerns head on.
Right.
What did she say?
She emphasized her experience on congressional committees dealing with homeland security and foreign affairs, arguing that it gave her valuable insight into national security threats.
Okay.
And she also highlighted the dangers of faulty intelligence and how it has led to major U.S. foreign policy blunders in the past.
So I guess she was trying to make the case that her outsider perspective could actually be an asset, helping to avoid repeating those mistakes.
That's certainly one way to interpret it, but whether that argument resonated with those who ultimately voted for her is another question.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about Gabbard's unconventional background, her controversial past the Snowden issue, the surprising Republican support, and even McConnell's dramatic dissent.
It's been quite a roller coaster of a confirmation process, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And it all culminates in Tulsi Gabbard becoming the Director of National Intelligence. But what does this actually mean for the future of U.S. intelligence under her leadership? That's what we'll be exploring next.
Okay, so we've established that Gabbard's path to becoming DNI was anything but ordinary. But now that she's in the driver's seat, so to speak, what can we expect? I mean, this isn't just some symbolic position. The DNI has a real impact on how the U.S. approaches global issues.
Absolutely. The intelligence community plays a critical role
Hmm.
in shaping foreign policy and national security strategy.
Right.
The information they gather and analyze
Mm.
directly influences decisions made by the president and Congress,
Yeah,
decisions with real-world consequences for all of us.
exactly. So let's connect this to the bigger picture. What does Gabbard's appointment tell us about Trump's vision for the intelligence community? And how might her approach align with or clash with those goals?
Well, based on Trump's past actions and statements,
Right.
it seems he values loyalty above all else. He's repeatedly criticized the intelligence community, accusing them of being part of a deep state working against him. Okay, now, for those unfamiliar with that term, deep state refers to a shadowy network of unelected officials who supposedly manipulate government policy from behind the scenes. So is Trump looking for someone to shake things up, someone who might be more inclined to align with his views?
It's possible. Gabbard's willingness to break from conventional thinking and challenge established norms could be seen as an asset in Trump's eyes.
But wouldn't that raise concerns about her objectivity? I mean, the DNI is supposed to provide unbiased intelligence analysis, even if it contradicts the president's views.
Exactly. That's the inherent tension here. Will Gabbard be able to stand her ground and present a clear-eyed view of the world, even if it clashes with Trump's worldview? Or will she succumb to pressure and become a yes person?
That's a crucial question. And it's not just about managing Trump's expectations. She also has to navigate the internal dynamics of the intelligence community itself.
Right. The intelligence community is made up of thousands of dedicated professionals with deep expertise in their respective fields. They're not always known for embracing change or welcoming outsiders with open arms.
So Gabbard's walking into a potentially tricky situation. She needs to build trust and credibility with a workforce that might be skeptical of her qualifications and wary of her potential to disrupt established practices.
It's a balancing act for sure. She needs to earn the respect of the intelligence community while also fulfilling the expectations of the president.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk about some of the specific challenges Gabbard is likely to face as DNI. We've already touched on the Snowden controversy and her stance on Russia. What other hot-button issues could come back to haunt her?
Well, her previous opposition to renewing Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act could be a point of contention.
And what does that allow?
This authority allows the government to collect communications of foreigners
Yeah.
located outside the United States.
And it's been controversial, right?
Yes, critics argue that Section 702 gives the government too much power and could potentially infringe on the privacy of American citizens. Gabbard's past stance on this issue suggests she might be more cautious about using these surveillance powers, which could create friction with those who prioritize national security above all else.
And then there's the whole question of her meeting with Assad. How might that impact her ability to deal with the ongoing conflict in Syria?
That's a tough one. On one hand, having met with Assad could give her unique insights into his thinking and motivations, but it also opens her up to accusations of bias, making it harder for her to act as an impartial broker in the conflict.
It seems like every move she makes will be scrutinized and interpreted through the lens of her past actions.
That comes at the territory of being DNI, especially in such a politically charged environment.
Okay, so let's move beyond the potential pitfalls
Mm-hmm.
and talk about the potential opportunities here. What could Gabbard bring to this role that previous DNIs haven't?
Well, her military background could be an asset. She understands the importance of intelligence in military operations, the need for clear, actionable information on the battlefield. She also knows firsthand the human cost of conflict and the importance of using intelligence to prevent unnecessary bloodshed.
That's a perspective that not many DNIs have had.
Exactly. And she's also someone who isn't afraid to speak her mind and challenge conventional wisdom. That could be a breath of fresh air in a world that's often dominated by groupthink and bureaucratic inertia.
But challenging the status quo can be risky, especially in a field as sensitive as intelligence.
Absolutely, it remains to be seen whether she can successfully leverage her outsider perspective to bring about positive change within the intelligence community.
We've talked about the challenges and the potential opportunities, but at the end of the day, what does this all mean for the average person? Why should we care about who's leading the intelligence community?
It's a fair question. And the answer is that the intelligence community plays a vital role in shaping U.S. foreign policy and national security strategy.
Okay.
The information they gather and the analysis they provide directly impact the decisions made by our leaders, decisions that affect all of our lives.
So it's not just about spies and secret missions.
Not at all. From military interventions to trade agreements to cybersecurity measures, the intelligence community's work has far-reaching consequences.
Right.
And with someone like Gabbard at the helm, someone who's shown a willingness to challenge conventional thinking, we could see some significant shifts in how the U.S. approaches these issues.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this all connects. The D&I's perspective can have a ripple effect across the entire U.S. government.
Precisely. Think about it. The intelligence community is responsible for assessing threats, identifying opportunities, and providing policymakers with the information they need to make informed decisions.
So if Gabbard brings a different perspective to the table, if she prioritizes certain threats over others, or if she advocates for a more or less interventionist approach to foreign policy, that could have a major impact on how the U.S. interacts with the world.
It's a reminder that the world of intelligence, while often shrouded in secrecy, has very real implications for all of us.
All right, so as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, we want to leave you with something to ponder. What do you think Gabbard's tenure as D&I will look like?
Will she be able to unite a fractured intelligence community and restore its credibility? Or will her unconventional approach further alienate career intelligence professionals?
What impact will her background and controversial past have on national security policy? Will she be a voice of restraint or a catalyst for more assertive action?
These are the questions we'll be watching closely in the months and years to come, and we encourage you to do the same.
Yeah, it really is a fascinating moment in history. But think about it, Tulsi Gabbard, someone who just a few years ago was running for president, is now in charge of the entire U.S. intelligence apparatus. It's a huge shift.
Yeah.
And it raises so many questions about the future direction of American intelligence.
And it speaks to the broader trend we've been discussing, the politicization of intelligence,
Right.
the role of the DNI, which was designed to be somewhat above the political fray, has become increasingly entangled in partisan battles and ideological divides.
So what does this all mean for the average listener? Why should we care about who's calling the shots in the intelligence world?
Well, the decisions made based on intelligence analysis have real-world consequences for all of us. Think about it. Intelligence informs everything, from military deployments to economic sanctions to cybersecurity policies.
Yeah.
These are issues that affect our daily lives, whether we realize it or not.
So it's not just about abstract threats happening in some far-off corner of the world.
Not at all. The intelligence community's work directly impacts our safety, our economic well-being, and even our fundamental freedoms.
Okay, that makes sense. But how can we, as everyday citizens, even begin to understand such a complex and secretive world? I mean, so much of what the intelligence community does is hidden from public view.
It's true that a lot of their work is classified, but that doesn't mean we can't engage in informed discussions about the big picture issues.
Okay.
We can educate ourselves about the different intelligence agencies, the types of threats they're facing, and the trade-offs involved in balancing national security with individual liberties.
So where should we even begin? Are there specific resources you recommend for those who want to learn more?
There are a wealth of resources available online and in libraries. Reputable news organizations, think tanks, and even government websites offer insightful analysis and reporting on intelligence matters. Just be sure to approach everything you read with a critical eye, considering the source and potential biases.
That's great advice. It's all about becoming more informed consumers of information, especially when it comes to something as crucial as national security.
Exactly. And remember, understanding the intelligence world isn't just about knowing the facts. It's about thinking critically about those facts, questioning assumptions, and considering different perspectives.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive into Tulsi Gabbard's appointment as D&I, we're going to leave you with a final thought to chew on. It's clear that this appointment represents a potential turning point for U.S. intelligence. What kind of legacy do you think Gabbard will leave behind?
Will she usher in an era of greater transparency and accountability? Or will she further erode public trust in the intelligence community? Will she be remembered as a reformer or a disruptor? A visionary leader or a political pawn?
Only time will tell. But one thing's for sure, Tulsi Gabbard's tenure as D&I is bound to be fascinating. consequential, and perhaps even a little bit unpredictable.
And that's what makes it all the more important for us to stay engaged, to keep asking questions and to hold our leaders accountable for the decisions they make in our name.
That's a perfect note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of U.S. intelligence. We'll be back soon with another insightful exploration of a topic that matters. Until then, keep learning, keep questioning, and stay curious.